You think Taylor Swift is going to kick Jason Kelsey out of her boot this week?
No.
I don't know.
Why?
Why do you automatically say no?
Because Jason Kelsey adds to the booth. He gives that booth, how should I say, a veteran in presence.
No question. I loved it, seeing his bare boobs and everything when he climbed out of the booth and then went into the crowd. But you don't think she was like, "Who's this Neanderthal that made his way into my booth?"
I think by now Taylor Swift knows who Jason Kelsey is.
Oh, you think so, huh?
I think she's quite aware of who he is. He's I mean, I know he looks just like every other human being, and you wouldn't be able to tell from his bushy beard or his eyebrows or just his general demeanor that that's Jason Kelsey. I think I have a feeling that she knew.
I know. I'm just messing around. What's going on, everybody? Just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. Steven's a little late because he was in the wrong chat for some goddamn reason. Explain yourself.
So yeah, this is great. So I didn't realize this because I should have recognized that the Ernie's and AJ Cruz wasn't in the chat.
And don't forget our man Danny Golding
and
TV.
now Danny Golding TV, he's on there. Like, I was just sitting here. I got here early, man. I was like, I told Jesse, no, I can't. I can't do this. I gotta go prep for the pod. So I sat down 11:45. 11:45.
Priority straight.
I'm right there, and then 11:50, Jesse. 11:50. Then. But I got to the chair early, and I'm just sitting here, and I'm reading something about Bill Belichick and his time with the Falcons and why things went sour after a couple of interviews, which I know we'll get to. We'll get to the conference championship. We'll get to everything. We got Evan Giddings coming up at 12:30. Yes, the rumors are true. Evans will be on here, and
Evan or Evans?
Evan Giddings. Evans Gidding. Evans Gidding is who.
Evan's a good dude. Evan's a good dude. He'll be joining us.
But anyway, I was sitting here just reading stuff, and then I look in I'm like, it's 12:03. I'm like, damn it, where's Derek? What's he doing? What is he doing on a Saturday afternoon? I'm thinking that in my head. And then I look and I see, oh, I'm in the other studio that we set up. See, our software here sets up different studios for each episode.
So you were in the guest studio, or
it's called a studio? No, I was in the studio for the last episode.
Oh my god!
Yeah. By the way,
you're
Derek,
just chilling.
Derek, I don't know if you know this. I was in the episode for 199. I was in that studio.
Oh,
so that makes today
our 200th episode.
Our 200th episode. It very well could give or take a few, because
I mean, I don't know where it is count-wise between live shows and podcasts, because I don't count the interviews, like the ones we did, like just one-on-one like interviews, as episodes.
Oh.
So I don't know what it's at right now, but we've been doing this for a long time. And it's good. A good accomplishment. So 200 episodes, whatever it is. Yeah.
200. Dude, we've been doing it so long that I started it from the apartment where I met Jessie.
Yeah.
And then I moved in with her at that apartment. And then and then we got to the new place with the box. And now we're here where I was on the couch for weeks and weeks and weeks until I got something set up. Wow, what a journey it's been! 200 episodes. Derek, what would you say your favorite memory is from from Just Your Opinion, man?
Oh, definitely the box. That was the highlight. But I would say we're finally coming up, because we're finally getting shout outs on the radio. I will, AJ Cruz, my man. Thank you for yesterday. I was embarrassed though, so I don't know if you know this, Steven. Yesterday we're taking calls on Tolbert and Copes, and AJ Cruz comes on, and I'm more than happy to put him on. And then at the very end, he's talking about how the Niners the villains this weekend with all all the shit that we've been through. I don't care about the Lions. And then at the very end, he goes, "But hey, that's just my opinion, man." And in the back studio, of course, Adam Copeland has to tell everybody. I'm like in the back studio, just embarrassed as hell. And Copes goes, "Oh, look at Derek right now, just rolling his eyes from left to right," because I don't, like, Tom doesn't know what the hell this is, so he's like, "Just your opinion, man." What was that, the Big Lebowski line? And then Copes had to explain. He's like, "Oh, so now our producers are just getting shout outs on their podcast." And I was like, "This is embarrassing. I don't want this, but I appreciate it, AJ Cruz. So thank you."
Wow, what a terrible thing that the behind the scenes people should get some shine finally. Come on. I hate that. You don't even tell Tom about the podcast?
We'll get him on eventually. It will take about 5 years, but we'll get him on.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd enjoy having him on. It'd be great. We'll talk UFC and put you we'll just have you silent on the mic.
Tom would if we talked to Tom about anything but the major sports, he would be in. If we talked about beer and UFC and gambling, he's in.
Yeah, and also your angriest moments so far as producer of Tolbert and Copes. We got to get to that. Your worst blowups so far. That's where I
he usually doesn't see them because he's at home. So, all right. Before we get Evan on, we get him on in about 20 minutes here. We got a lot to cover today. And the main reason why we want to have Evan on is because I don't know if people know this. Big Chargers guy.
Yeah.
And big deal with Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. So let's start there. We'll talk about conference championships and everything else going on in the sports world. But let's start with the NFL coaching cycle. No surprise. We put the podcast out on Tuesday, and then I think it was, we put it out on Wednesday, and later that day, sure enough, the news breaks that Jim Harbaugh is going to the LA Chargers. He leaves Michigan. He's going to get everything that he wants. Don't know who his coordinator is going to be yet, but it sounds like he's going to get the Michigan defensive coordinator join him, Jesse Minter. And I don't love this. Greg Roman sounds like he's going to be his offensive coordinator. Running the pull read option with Justin Herbert. I don't know about that. But now it's official, Steven. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, but now that it's official, what do you think of the move?
I think I think it's solid enough to where they should be excited, but it's a wait and see for me. I like the move because I think Jim Harbaugh is good for the NFL. I think he's good just to have in the sport. We need characters at the head coaching position, and that's something he provides. Do I know exactly what he does? Well, that I don't. And I'm not going to act like I was in the early 2010s. I was totally entrenched in everything 49ers because after all, I was just trying to, get a C grade average at Chico State at that time. So I was busy with other things. But I'd like to know where the control is, where the power lies. Because I think if it all lies with Jim Harbaugh, I don't know if that's really the way to go in today's NFL. So a lot of questions. Overall, I think it's a good move. And I guess it was a long time coming because he was a quarterback guy. And, all the talk has been if he's going to is he going to elevate Justin Herbert? And that's got to be the number one priority. So if he can do that, then I think ultimately it would be a successful hire.
I think it's a big hire. I think it's one that gets him.
You know what? Hang on real quick. You're not gonna do this, but I'll do it for you. You have called this. You called this pretty much since the beginning. Anytime one about the Raiders got brought up, I see more of the Chargers. Anytime Michigan got brought up, doesn't want to deal with the NCAA stuff. So I'm going with the Chargers. Also saw a great meme with Bane from The Dark Knight Rises right at the beginning. And it was Jim Harbaugh speaking to that coordinator who took over as head coach. I forgot his name. I think Moore is his last name or something like that.
Yeah.
There needs to be someone in the wreckage, brother. So anyway, credit to you though, because you have really called this since the beginning. And do you know something? Do you know something about this?
No, I was just following Sharon Moore, by the way. I want to get his name right.
Right.
And yeah, he's definitely the type of guy to take the fall. I fucking love you. Fucking love the shit out of you, Jim. Gotta be more tactful going forward, my man.
It's all thanks to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. By the way, Jim, I fucking love you, man.
Yeah, exactly. that was great timing. I just follow the tea leaves, man. I didn't know any inside stuff. I listen to things. I follow stuff on Twitter, but I didn't really know any stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for the Chargers just because they needed a big time head coach. I think they totally whiffed on not getting Sean Payton. He wanted to go, and now they get Jim Harbaugh. But I do wonder. It's been so long since he's been in the NFL. If he really knows how to build up a quarterback,
Yeah.
and build up an offense because he's not an X's and O's guy. And you know what? I heard this a lot the last couple of weeks, and I think it's a terrible comparison. People say like, "Oh, he's the modern day Bill Parcells." No, no. Bill Parcells was nothing like Jim Harbaugh.
Hmm.
Bill Parcells was defensive oriented. He was a leader of men, but he, you know, I don't see the comparison at all. I don't like that one. No.
Yeah.
Um, and he's a rah rah guy. Bill Parcells was definitely not going to be cheesy. I wonder if the "Who's Got It Better Than Us" stuff is going to fly with Justin Herbert. He seems like, oh, whatever, man. So he's going to get them going. I think they're going to be better, but I like to see what he does offensive coordinator wise because I don't know if I love Greg Roman with him if that's the way it's going to be.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, Jim Harbaugh, he's a colorful character. He the thing is, I think he's matured a lot since the last time he's been in the NFL, almost 10 years ago, where on the sidelines with the 49ers, he was just so animated and ridiculous. Every call that didn't go his way. He can't do that again. He can't be crazy on the sideline. And also he can't be doing the shit he did with the Niners behind closed doors, where he was challenging Trent Baalke or supposedly in a meeting telling Jed York, hit the bricks. This is a big boy meeting. Like
Hmm.
you can't do that stuff with the Spanoses unless they told you to do whatever the hell you want because you're the head coach now. So I think it's a good move for them. I think it's going to be very interesting. I don't know if it's going to elevate the play of Justin Herbert because I got to be honest, I don't think that with the exception of Colin Kaepernick, Alex Smith too. I don't think any quarterback has really played amazing under
Andrew
Jim
Luck.
Harbaugh. Okay, I take that back. But Andrew Luck's in his own class. He's amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This is going to be a wait and see. But I will say this: as far as the AFC West, landscape, um, you have 3 head coaches that have a lot of experience, and then you have Antonio Pierce. So this will be very interesting for the Raiders going forward.
Right. Right. But this is starting over, though. Like Antonio Pierce, as of now, I mean, at least if you take the past decade in which the NFL has changed immensely since Harbaugh left, Antonio Pierce has more experience than he does, at least in this day and age. I mean, sure, he was a head coach at one point, but he's been a head coach in college football for the past few years. And also the notion that like I'm willing to hear Andrew Luck and Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick because I'm willing to hear that. But when I hear JJ McCarthy
Dude,
on the list of it's like he just developed a quarterback that's not even going to be probably not even going to go pro. Like, what do you mean here? Are we
he'll
really
go pro, but
are we really
I
throwing JJ McCarthy in that mix?
well, anybody that had him in the first round mock drafts, like, no, come on, guys. And then I even saw if the Raiders get Harbaugh, then he'll want JJ McCarthy to be his quarterback. JJ McCarthy is not a starting NFL quarterback. I'm sorry. I
Right.
don't know what's going to happen in the combine and everything, but I don't see it for the next level for that guy.
No, I don't either. So, no, there's a lot of questions around it and just trying to recreate the 49ers. Like, what's he going to do? I mean, I know Vic Fangio was linked to the Eagles. What's he going to bring Vic Fangio on? And you're just going to have the entire coaching staff from those 49er teams now with the Chargers?
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like crusty old Fangio did not get along with Mike McDaniel, and he's going to go to Philly. I think that's a done deal already.
That is
Uh,
no shock at all that he did not get along with McDaniel. It takes a very, very loose individual, I'd say. A guy who's not so wound tight and football guy serious. Like Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel wouldn't mix.
yeah. It was interesting. Did you watch the Hard Knocks with the Dolphins?
No.
He was not shown at all.
Yeah.
And I think that when they hired him, I was like, he must like the weather or something because I can't see him and McDaniel jiving. Like they are just polar opposites, and that was the case. But also, it sounded like he just didn't get along with the players, which, Fangio a couple years ago when he was Broncos head coach, I think I remember when the George Floyd stuff was going on, he was like, what's going on with all this social justice stuff?
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, it's only a matter of time before Fangio's not a head coach. But also, I thought about it's funny to me how big news that is in the NFL that Fangio is going to leave the Dolphins. Like in any other sport, no one gives a shit about an assistant coach leaving a team. And
Right.
then in the NFL, it's like big graphic, Fangio all mad. Ugh. Is leaving the Miami Dolphins to go pursue the defensive coordinator position with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that's a good move. But it also kind of speaks to what's going on with these coaching hires. So, along with Harbaugh, this week we saw Dave Canales to the Panthers, the Buccaneers offensive coordinator, and I didn't really have him on the radar as far as a possible head coaching guy until I was hanging out with our guy Scott a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "I think Dave Canales is going to get a head coaching job," and I was like, "Who's that again?" And he was like, "The Buccaneers OC." And then I watched the Bucks and Eagles game, and I saw him in the post game. Good looking dude, speaks well, has got a presence on social media. I was like, "Yeah, this guy actually could be a head coach. He's got the look of it." So I'm
Hmm.
not surprised there with the Panthers. Dan Morgan, the old Panthers linebackers, the GM there, and they had a relationship back in Seattle, so that makes sense. And then Raheem Morris was named Falcons head coach. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, uh-oh. Well, I mean, good for Raheem because he deserves that, but Bill's not getting a job then
Right. Right.
because that was the only place he was linked to. And everything you read since he had the second job interview sounded like Arthur Blank's all in, and everybody else that could get fired is not in because it sounded like Bill wanted full autonomy of the whole thing,
Yeah.
and Rich McKay and their GM Terry Fodeno were like, "We like our jobs." No, so I understand that, but also if you're going to be the Atlanta Falcons and you have kind of been not the biggest franchise in NFL history, and you have the chance to land arguably the biggest head coach of all time, does that make you kind of look like, what the hell are you doing?
Not so much with the Falcons, because it feels like the Falcons are actually building something. It feels that way to me with the Commanders, though. Like the
Hmm.
Commanders were one of the earliest teams to get rid of their head coach. They cleaned house. They brought on this whole advisory board. It was a huge deal that Bob Myers was added to the team to look for the general manager and look for the head coach. And obviously, Adam P.
Nope.
connection. But hiring a head coach, like, what's going on there? And I think it's more of an like at least the Falcons are building something. It seemed like they're really just a head coach away. It's not like they need Belichick to just come in and tear everything down. And I think Raheem Morris will be the right guy, especially someone who can connect with their younger players. Like they got a lot of youngsters on that team. Plus they need a new quarterback and Raheem Morris can elevate that defense from good to great. I think they were kind of an underrated defense this year. So I kind of understand that. It's the Commanders more to me. Like, why? What? The Commanders aren't looking for anybody who could change the entire culture of that place?
I think with Adam Peters as GM, they want to do kind of the Kyle Shanahan mold.
Right.
So all indications, the remaining jobs, it sounds like Ben Johnson's going to be the Commanders head coach,
Uh huh.
and it sounds like Dan Quinn will be the Seattle Seahawks head coach.
All right.
So I think we're going to see. It sounds to me like Belichick and guys like Pete Carroll, the 70-year-old guys, are kind of getting pushed out a little bit. And that's unfair because of their age. And they may have to wait a year and then come back and see what jobs are available. But it doesn't sound like Bill's getting a job this year. And, I understand if Dan Quinn gets the Seattle job. But if you're Seattle and you want to beat the 49ers, Dan Quinn, who knows Kyle Shanahan, has not done a good job coordinating against Kyle Shanahan. And to me, Mike Vrabel makes more sense with Seattle because he's one of the few guys that has a defensive scheme that stops the play caller group of Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel, and who am I missing?
Sean McVay.
Sean McVay. He's beaten all those guys once in his time as Titans head coach. So he knows what to do. But I was listening to Tom Pelissero go on with Rich Eisen. He was talking about what's up with Belichick and Vrabel not getting jobs this time around. And he's like, to be completely honest, the organizations want guys that are going to be positive and more in the line of Dan Campbell, where they're motivating guys, they're bringing people together, they're like that's what we're seeing more with Antonio Pierce and Raheem Morris and Gerard Mayo. well, actually, I shouldn't say that with Raheem Morris. He actually is a X's and O's guys defensively. But as far as Antonio Pierce and Jerome Mayo, they're leaders of men. They're motivators. And a lot of these coaches that have been hired this time around are also guys that are going to go with the flow of what the organization wants. So Belichick obviously wants final say in everything, and it sounds like Mike Vrabel pushed a lot of buttons with the Titans. He got John Robinson fired the first time around because they traded away AJ Brown, and he didn't get along with um, Rand Carthon. So they're gonna wait a year, it sounds like, and then when jobs like the Eagles or Cowboys or Jets or even Bills open up next year, then they'll have their pick. But it sounds like these owners right now want to find guys that are willing to cooperate and also motivate their men.
That's no surprise. That's no surprise at all because it's a new day and age now. And I think Vrabel can connect with players more than Belichick can. I think that's where Vrabel has the leg up. He might not be a positive guy, but I also think he's the type of dude that will, rally the troops and get them prepared the way they need to be and really turn them into a good NFL team. Whereas Belichick, I don't know if he's going to connect with any of these guys or have
Yeah.
much of a sense of humor. And, I think just the idea that it's Bill Belichick. Like at first, you were a part of a Patriots team and you'd sign there as a free agent, maybe get drafted, and you're like, okay, I know this is the Patriots domain. It's the Patriots way. It's Bill Belichick. But a lot of these new teams, even though they might be, considered retooling or rebuilding, they've created something there. And it's just, I think they'd be more fearful to bring Belichick in, just the players. It's like, oh boy, Bill Belichick's here. And I don't know how much they'd buy into everything that he's talking about just because today's professional sports, if you hear from any of the older players, it's not the same as it used to be in terms of how these guys operate. You know, I, I, I could see Vrabel. I can understand the negativity thing with Vrabel, but I still see him still see him being a successful head coach. With Belichick, I don't know if I see him connecting to the players, and I don't know. If he's potentially up for a job next year, I mean, is anyone going to hire him? Who knows?
I think so. I think so. It'll take time, but I don't know if I agree with all of that because yes, that stuff is important, but at the same time, isn't winning the most important thing
It is. It is. But does Belichick know how to do that if
in
it's not
today's?
in today's NFL? Well, it's just if it's not with his team, if it's not with a decent quarterback, if it's not with a decent defense.
Yeah,
And I think he just needs to maybe take a year off and reflect and realize like they need me there as a coach. They don't need me there to run the organization. This isn't
right.
Robert Kraft and the New England Patriots. So maybe that's what the year off will do for him. Maybe it's good that he gets a year off because by all accounts, that's really what it sounded like with the Falcons, as you mentioned at the top, where it was just a power struggle,
Yeah,
really. And the fact that he wanted to be the czar, that's the word I'm seeing, czar of all things,
yeah.
with the football operations, and he can't be that.
No, I agree with that. He needs to give a little as far as what goes into making the team. I just wonder what he's going to do this year. I can't see him going into TV. He's not going to be on the hot take shows. He was great on the top or the NFL 100 thing with him, Chris Collinsworth, and Rich Eisen talking about the history of the game. But I can't see him, you know, doing a studio show. Maybe, but I don't see him doing that. What I do want to see. Oh, go ahead, Steven. Sorry, you want to add to that?
No, no, no. Keep going.
What I do want to see, and this is just me being ridiculous, is I would love to have like a reality show of him and Nick Saban just chilling in Florida because they're not going to do anything this year. So it's just Nick Saban and him just trying to figure out life post football. Nick's got his wife Miss Terry and Bill Belichick, and they're just hanging at bars and just talking about football. You know. And Saban's and Belichick's just like they're talking about football, and yeah, we could call it. I think I texted you this. You know, talking X's and O's and hitting on hoes. Just Belichick and Saban on the prowl, where Belichick's just like, "Hey, Nick, do you mind being my wingman and talking to those girls over there?" No, I mean, I can't do it, Bill. I can't. I got Miss Terry at home. I quit asking. I can't. It's like,
Scheming up a whole playbook on how to avoid their family.
yeah, exactly. It's like, come on. You got more charisma than me. You could talk to those girls over there. Come on. All right. You know my buddy Bill over there. I'm sorry. I don't know who that is. He's the winningest. He's got 6 Super Bowls. I think I know you actually. Oh yeah, I'm Nick Saban, former head coach of Alabama. No, aren't you in the Aflac commercials? Do you know Dion? Oh Jesus, that's the
I'd be
whole
into
sketch.
it.
I came up with my idea.
That's appointment television for me.
Yeah,
Yeah. Then you have them doing talking heads and everything with the dramatic music. Just like have them secretly talking to producers, like, I don't know what Nick is doing. I don't understand. I don't understand it. And then you have like a guest, Lou Holtz, come on for an episode.
I can't do Lou Holtz. I wish I could. Well, you see,
Whoa. No, I was just gonna say national talk shows. You reminded me though from Tuesday when we talked about how stupid it was that they were having is the Brock Purdy a weak link conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, I'm looking at ESPN and the headline, "Are we being too critical of Brock Purdy?" I'm like, you're the ones who created the whole conversation about and asking them to criticize Brock Purdy. Yes, you are, because you did it.
Who had that? ESPN?
ESPN, yeah, I saw it on Get Up.
That's stupid. So that's like their stream of conscious after a day of just shitting on the guy.
Yeah, it's like, hey, let's set them up with the question which asked specifically to criticize Brock Purdy, and then the next day, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go heel turn, except the complete opposite of a heel turn. We're gonna go heel. We're gonna be the good guys. We're gonna say people are too harsh on Brock Purdy, and then we're gonna flip the script. It's bothered me.
At least they're realizing their own fault. But yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. That's just talking on both sides of your mouth.
So waiting on Evan. He'll be on soon. I hope.
Okay.
He said that he's on his way home.
Okay.
So
no, he said he's setting up right now, so he should be on shortly here.
All right.
And I'll have you introduce him, Steven, because I don't want to get in trouble for saying where he's on and everything.
Why? You won't get in trouble, can you?
No, I know, but whatever.
The bosses could be watching this, both of them. You never know.
Are they?
I don't know. Tune in and just your opinion, man.
Yeah, it's a good old the Capulets and Montagues coming together here.
As far as I'm concerned, we are bringing Bay Area radio together.
That's the goal. Let's all love each other. No Fox and the Hound bullshit.
Stupid. Anyway,
but before we get Evan on, just real quick, can we get into this more? You tired of this whole Lions storyline of their America's team right now?
No, why?
Because I get it. They have not been relevant for quite some time. But no, AJ Cruz, you did not get me in trouble by mentioning the pod. Don't worry. But no, I mean, just like the whole thing of like everybody's rooting for the Lions. Nobody cares about the Niners. The Niners are the bad guys. I don't believe that. I think the Niners haven't won in quite some time. It's been since 1994. They're a bigger franchise, obviously, than the Lions. The Lions last won in 1957. It's a bigger deal to the Lions. But also the Niners could be coming up on 3 straight conference championship losses. We haven't seen that since the Eagles with Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb. So this whole notion that everyone's rooting for the Lions, poor Lions, I don't see that. I think that it's going to be, like the Lions are America's team right now in the sense that everybody feels for them and what they've gone through. But also, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the Lions make the Super Bowl and everybody's like, "Oh, the Lions are in the Super Bowl."
Look, man, I'm just judging from everything I've seen via social media. And I know social media is not real life, but when I'm just seeing countless things about this is the Super Bowl that we're hoping for, and I see Ravens and Lions up on that board. Look, man, I think it's organic. I think it's organic in that Everyone just loves rooting for the underdog. And and Brock Purdy, the whole idea that he's, no one's rooting for him because we're tired of the underdog story. I disagree with that, because Brock Purdy's no longer really an underdog. This isn't the story of him being Mr. Irrelevant. This is a story of him now being among the top tier of quarterbacks, or at least not top tier, but maybe top 10, right? Like, this is more than just an underdog story with him. And I don't know. I still see that the Lions I think everyone's rooting for the Lions. I really do. Even though I'm here in the Bay Area, and we're in our own little bubble, I really think if you were to take like a wide national poll and you'd ask an audience, because of where the Lions have been, because of Dan Campbell, Jared Goff's a pretty likable quarterback, and he kind of got the raw end of the deal with the Rams, I guess, at the end of his time. I think a lot of people would be rooting for the Lions if you took a poll.
I agree with that. But also, back to your Brock Purdy thing for a second, I think that he's still the underdog.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I don't think a lot of people look at him as a top 10 quarterback. I think that, honestly, when we get the MVP voting, he probably won't be top 3. I think it's going to be Lamar, Dak, and McCaffrey. And even though he's a finalist, I think there's still going to be some agenda. So if he wins it, I think that truly is the underdog story, that he became Mr. Irrelevant to being relevant and possibly being Super Bowl MVP. But I think that's still a big narrative with the 49ers.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a really great game. I just wonder which version of the Niners we're going to get. I know we're going to talk about it with Evan, and once he hops on, I'm sure we could just bring him into the conversation. But, God, it's just we've seen the 49ers reach their ceiling. We've seen them not reach their ceiling, but we've seen them play just about as well as they can play. It's hard to imagine with some of these 40-point games where the offense is just clicking on all cylinders, scoring on drive after drive, not giving up any negative yards. Like, we've seen them play, I think, to their potential. I mean, maybe there's a little bit left on the table. As the team says, there's always some meat left on the bone with every game, and no one's perfect. But God, when we've seen the Niners dominate, they dominate. They take advantage of other teams. They walk all over them. But sometimes when it doesn't get started that way, I'm going to say the key again into this game is how it goes in the first quarter. If we see them off to a hot start where they score on the opening possession and then maybe get another score in between while the defense just kind of holds the opponents to nothing, then I personally think that that's when it can get interesting. But I just don't know which version we're going to get. Is Evan trying to hop on here? Where the hell is he?
Yeah, does Evan know that he doesn't need to be in the chat? He could just get in. Does he have the stream link?
He should have the stream link.
Okay, then.
I invited him via the stream.
Well, we'll figure that out.
Let me send it to him again. All right, here we go. Gonna try.
All good. Well, I will say a big thing for the 49ers, obviously, yesterday was the news that Deebo Samuel is going to play in this game. So Evan just texted us, by the way. Let me see what he's saying here. I think I got the wrong. Yeah, Steven, you sent him the one that you were in earlier.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's a good point. Damn.
Yeah.
All right, Evan, get
doing your best Robert De Niro right there. You're very good. You're very good. No, I think Deebo Samuel playing in this game is big if he's healthy. If he's not, decoy Samuel. But we'll get to that in a little bit here. Let's bring in our guest, Steven, who you led astray and gave him the wrong fucking link.
Evan, just to give you some insight here, I entered the wrong studio and entered the one from the last podcast, and that was the link that I sent you, and now we got to the new one, and you're here. 95.7 The Game producer, does Warriors pre and post some days, 49ers pre and post, really a jack of all trades there at 95.7 The Game, but the one, the only, and also, look, it's Bay Area radio, so he doesn't get a chance to talk for more than 5 minutes on his beloved Chargers, but we will let him get those takes off, as he mentioned, with Jim Harbaugh, Tom Telesco leaving as well. Evan Giddings, what's going on?
What the hell is happening, fellas? I mean,
What's going
Steve,
on?
first and foremost, L in Langford, that is on you 100%.
Yeah.
And no, I'm just playing.
No,
StreamYard is a fickle appliance. And honestly, you guys look swell. I feel like I'm the one who's like backlit and all wrecked up right now. But I appreciate you having me on. What the hell's happening, fellas?
Not a whole lot, Evan. Sorry that Steven led you astray, and he did the same thing where he was sitting in his own wrong
Not the
goddamn
first
chat.
time. Not the first. Probably
dude,
more
I
the
sat
last.
dude, I sat in the old studio for like 5 more minutes after the start time wondering where Derek was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just Steve with all his friends.
Mm-hmm.
Steven just sitting in a room by himself. Nothing new there. So, Evan, let's just get right to it, man. You are a Chargers fan, and we've been talking about it for a long time. You wanted to see an upgrade from Brandon Staley. What do you think of Harbaugh?
First and foremost, yeah, end of the Brandon Staley era. Thank God. Boy, yeah, the Chargers have been devoid of leadership in many forms throughout the years, as you guys know from being familiar with the division. But to have a head coach that is finally, like, let me put it this way: the Chargers made the right hire. Now, whether it will work or not, that is completely up to Jim. Also, I think his familiarity with the Chargers, having been a backup, by the way, for one of the worst times in franchise history. I think he was the backup for Ryan Leaf when he was in San Diego. So this guy understands what the bottom of the barrel looks like from inside the organization. I think that familiarity is going to give him a leg up on a lot of other guys, but they got the right dude. And he has, I'm sure, as both of you know, a track record of turning water into wine, whether it's in college, whether it's in the pros. And of course, getting the national championship with Michigan was a great accomplishment. So I'm very happy that they hired the right individual. And I also hope that there were the kind of undercurring or underlying understanding on his side that he is going to be given the power to do what he wants to do, because what he wants to do typically works. There's a shelf life to it. A lot of people get pissed off in the process, but the fact remains the man has won at every single stop in his coaching career, from San Diego, the university way back in the day, all the way up until now. It hopefully can be with the Los Angeles Chargers. So I'm pumped. I'm jacked.
What crossed the line for you with Brandon Staley, though? What was the point where you're like, okay, this guy cannot lead our team? Is there one specific moment you could pinpoint, or is it just pretty much everything that he did?
I think Derek and I have talked about this a couple times. Week 17, 2021. And
yeah.
That was, I believe, his first season. Yeah, I was done with him after his first year. The guy did not know what he was doing very clearly from the start.
You didn't like him going for it, fourth and whatever on his own 25-yard line?
He's in. Look, if something doesn't work for Bill Belichick, it ain't gonna work for you, buddy. Like, I hate to break it to you. AFC Championship game 2008, when the Patriots went for it against the Colts, like, that is 100% not the move. You don't do it in a big game. You certainly don't do it with your season on the line when you haven't even got to the postseason. Quit trying to rewrite the history books. Quit trying to whip out the calculator and let us all know. Like, okay, so this is how Brandon Staley, I'm pretty sure, got the job. Like, we've all interviewed for positions that we probably weren't qualified for, but you're hoping that someone gives you a chance, you can get your foot in the door, and then prove that they made the right choice because you either believe that you are talented enough for the position, but you don't have the resume, but this is a really good fit for you. And I think that Brandon Staley might have thought that coming in, but considering that this guy was blogging about the NFL just 6 years ago, and it only had head coaching experience at a Division III level, that to me does not scream NFL head coach. Once he got in the door, he crushed the interview. He gets on the PowerPoint. He shows everyone where he's so unbelievably creative and imaginative, and he's going to turn this thing around. He was great as a DC with the Rams because he had great players. And he was great as a linebackers coach with Chicago because he had a great linebacker named Khalil Mack, who you guys know and love. So I don't think Brandon Staley was ever in a position where he made the players. Like, the players made him. And I just thought the Chargers always overthought it, just as Brandon Staley, in turn, overthought just about every single critical situation during his tenure. More often than not, it blew up in his face. And as a result, you left with 4 years later a 500 record, one postseason appearance in which you blew the third largest lead in playoff history. That's what you get when you hire the wrong dude, which is what they did, which is now what they haven't done. And we can just turn the page and leave that all in the past.
There you go, Evan. Let's move on. You don't have to worry about Brandon Staley anymore.
That was great. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
I know you've been waiting on that. I know you've been sitting on that. You've had that one in the holster for a while.
Dude, I've been waiting to get these takes off. I mean, you know better than anyone, Steve. You both do. It's like I came in after the hiring was announced, and we were talking about Niners or something. I was filling in for Steiny on Steiny and Guru, and we're chatting with the boss, and he's like, okay, like I know you're a fan. I know that Harbaugh is a big part of why you're happy today. I know, because he's a Michigan fan. We can't make it about you today. We can't. I was like, dude, I'm not going to. Like, I understand what the deal is. We're talking about the Niners. It's big. It's huge. It's but yes, this is a safe space, and I appreciate you letting me get these takes off.
No, but I mean, like, I think people in the Bay Area kind of have a vested interest just because of what happened with the Niners. And we all know he had some interesting conflicts with Trent Baalke and the ownership there. So is there any worry with you that he's going to be just... He's going to clash with the Spanoses at some point, and this whole thing's going to get messed up?
Probably, but I think it'll take longer. Yes, I mean, again, he's a man of his word, Jim Harbaugh. I think it's going to take longer than it did in San Francisco, just because, again, of the familiarity he has. Now, you could also spin that and say the fact that he's been in the building before and knows how the Spanoses operate means that it's going to actually have less of a fuse, or, a shorter fuse. Like, he's going to blow up when they go back on their word, or they don't want to pay for this, or they're notoriously stingy for that. But I kind of think he wouldn't take the job if he didn't know what he was getting into. And he's not an idiot. One thing you can say about Jim Harbaugh is a very smart individual, especially within the football world. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that that's going to be a huge problem in the immediate. I also think that, look, I mean, he hadn't had a head coaching job in the NFL before. I think he is more of a college type of guy, but it was 15 years ago. I would also like to think he's more mature now at age 60 and understands just how these things type of work. And so hopefully he's in a different place in his life, combined with the fact that he knows how the Chargers like to conduct business.
We got quite a few Raider fans that listen to this podcast.
Steven,
and ask about the general manager, Tom. What? Wait, hang on.
Go for it. Your face just froze with a classic Langford grin.
Am I here now?
Yeah, I got you.
Am I good? Okay. Yeah, moving off Jim Harbaugh for just a question. The GM, Tom Telesco, obviously he left San Diego or Los Angeles, rather, ended up getting hired by the Raiders. And Telesco, I mean, he doesn't have the greatest track record in terms of free agent signings, but obviously we know that he made the trade for Khalil Mack, got him in Los Angeles, and has drafted some pretty good players overall. And, the Chargers have had talent, and it could have been a problem with the coaching. So what are the Raiders getting in their new general manager?
I think you guys hired a good GM. I don't know if I sent you a video I took in a drunken expression of emotion, but I did kind of take a dig at the Raiders during that celebration of Jim Harbaugh. No, quite honestly, I think this is a good hire for the Raiders. And I also don't think it was his problem, or he wasn't the biggest issue in Los Angeles. And he was hired when they were in San Diego. Like, he'd been there quietly for quite some time. I think his first draft class, or close to, was around the Keenan Allen draft class. I mean, he'd been there for quite a while. I could be wrong there, but it was something in the mid 2010s. And the one thing about Telesco that I thought didn't always get appreciated by the Chargers fan base, as small of them now are as there are, he hits on first round picks, like the majority of the time. Now, I know Quentin Johnson is the most recent one. You're saying, well, what the hell happened there, Evan? But the majority of his first round picks, he does not swing and miss. And that, I think, goes under the radar for a lot of fans because you just expect first round picks to be good. Well, if you look up and down, a lot of them for a lot of teams aren't good or don't stick around for a long period of time. So if you look up and down to the Chargers, I mean, one of the reasons you're talking about the talent that they have is because their first round picks are starters, number one,
Yeah.
and they have some sort of accolade attributed to their name. They also stay with the team. So I would say this: if you're a Raiders fan and you're watching this podcast, know that you are getting a guy that will consistently find good talent in the first round and will be able to keep it. So you're going to have players that you can grow and kind of learn to appreciate or ride the emotional, inevitable NFL roller coaster with. I think that's a positive for sure and goes understated. The downside is what you mentioned, which is he generally is not good with free agency. Has not been able to really identify or appropriately identify how much to pay a particular individual and how much that individual is worth. I think the Chargers got a little bit under him, kind of star enveloped. Like this guy was really good for a certain team and had one good year. The Brandon Flowers of the world of Kansas City, you saw him often. So he was a guy to throw a lot of money at, was never good afterwards. JC Jackson's the most recent one that completely blew up in their face and was an absolute whiff, especially when you had someone like Charvarius Ward also in free agency that same offseason who got $30 million less in guaranteed money. So, yeah, he hasn't had a good track record in free agency, but I also think that, like the goal right now for the Raiders should not be to go out and acquire top talent. It should be to build top talent. And that's something that he has a proven track record of doing. So I think for the position the Raiders are in, he is, maybe not the perfect guy for the job, but you definitely could have hired someone else who didn't know what the hell he was doing. And also with the division familiarity, I think that helps as well from a front office perspective.
Going back to Harbaugh real quick.
Yeah.
If they were going to make Greg Roman the offensive coordinator, how would you feel about that? Because when I think of him, I think of Paul Reed option. I think of Colin Kaepernick. I think of Lamar Jackson. I think of a running quarterback. And I don't think that's the best scheme, obviously, for Justin Herbert. Not saying that Greg Roman would run Justin Herbert into the ground, but do you think that's a good fit?
It's probably not the best fit. Honestly, I know he's no longer there, but I wouldn't have mind Kellen Moore being kept around. I think whoever it is, and it could be Greg Roman. One, I think Herbert's talented enough to work with any OC, and any OC should be smart enough to know what kind of talent they have in Herbert and utilize his skill set, of which there is a plenty. Number two, I really just want to see Herbert grow with an offensive coordinator, like as a football player, not just as a professional. I think this will be the fourth he's had in his first 5 seasons. But even going back to college, he had 4 different offensive coordinators in 4 years at Oregon. So this dude is really just kind of a robot. I mean, he looks like a robot. He acts like a robot, but he's been a robot in just about the 7 or 8 various systems that he's had to adapt to. And considering there's been that much turnover at that position for him in his life, I think he's done pretty well for himself. The best he's ever been was under Shane Steichen. And as we saw him go to Philadelphia, there's very obvious reasons as to why him leaving Philadelphia. Hurts falls off a cliff. Now in Indianapolis, he gets a lot out of those guys. So Steichen was, the greatest coordinator he's had, but I don't think he can't make it work with any guy. The one thing I think Harbaugh helps with, in addition to, of course, playing the position, is I really want to see Herbert, and I know he's a tough quarterback, has fought through injuries, but the mental toughness aspect of football is probably the one box I don't feel confident that he's checked yet. And as a result of that, you're seeing a lot of late losses, particularly last season. I think he makes poor decisions in big moments with the football, and he gets a little, I think, enveloped in what the system wants him to do instead of making his own choices and being empowered. And I think that's where Harbaugh is going to help him a lot. I think that Harbaugh is going to get him to play quarterback with a backbone, a proverbial backbone, so to speak. And that, to me, would take him into a different tier of quarterbacking, one of which he's already supremely talented. But the idea of putting the game in your hands, taking it into your game, and then ideally going out and winning it, because the Chargers are in a lot of football games. They just got to finish. So I think from that perspective, Harbaugh, to me, is going to help, no matter who the OC is, to be quite honest.
I can't wait till Herbert, the stoic, kind of soft-spoken Herbert, is getting that whole bump on the shoulder pads, push on the chest right before games. Can you imagine Herbert's reaction to that? I don't know if he'll be receptive to it, but he could. look, everyone has him turning Herbert into like a top 5 guy. Like they really do. And he might already even be there. And they just have Harbaugh elevating him. So it seems like it's almost, I don't know. It seems like you're getting unanimous approval, at least nationally, with some of these experts and analysts with the Harbaugh thing. That's just kind of what I've seen. We need to see it on the field.
Sure.
We need to see it on the field, though.
Yeah, I mean, well, let me ask you guys this: Were you happy to see Jim Harbaugh come into the AFC West?
I mean, not really, because I think he is a good coach, but I do wonder. I've talked about this with you before. What does he do actually? Like that's the biggest concern I always have with like a kind of a CEO coach, where they don't really, call plays. They just kind of motivate the team, and I don't doubt that he does that. But I mean, obviously he gets the best out of his players. So my biggest concern right now in the AFC West is you have 3 head coaches that have experience winning, and you have a very inexperienced head coach in Antonio Pierce. So that's the only thing where I'm like, Antonio Pierce could not look as good as the other coaches in that division.
That's fair. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I didn't think about that from the perspective of, hey, like, you got essentially a first timer, and then you got 3 pretty proven guys. Yeah. How's he going to look in comparison to them? And that's obviously unfair, but that is interesting. I don't know, like the whole CEO coach thing to me, and I understand it's not as popular now just because of how the young hotshot coordinators have come up. And I think really Shanahan, McVay, and LaFleur are kind of the poster boys for that. But then also, I mean, in recent memory, D'Amico Ryan, Robert Saleh, Mike McDaniel, pretty much everyone under that tree. Now Raheem Morris has got the job in Atlanta. I think that's deserving. So look, I guess my biggest concern for the Chargers is that Harbaugh is going to want to have power, and I feel fine with him distributing however he sees fit, but they are, I think, in the worst cap situation going into this offseason of any team in the NFL. They're like $40 or $45 million over the cap.
Oof.
So when it comes to roster construction, I think he's going to make the right choices as a CEO, but his choices are limited. Like, he doesn't really have a whole lot of flexibility. So it's about extracting the best out of what he currently has after they kind of finagle some sort of deals. And I just don't know how much better that gets you, because they were a 5-win team this year. And how realistically big of a leap can you take? I know he had San Francisco's pretty much the same roster from like 2010 to 2011 when he came in. And then, of course, they got to the conference title game. But that was a relatively young, up-and-coming team. The Chargers are pretty old right now. So I just wonder if the first season he's going to struggle because he's cap-strapped, essentially.
Yeah. Didn't hurt having, guy like Frank Gore and Patrick Willis on both sides of the ball, like kind of in their primes, really, at that time. That definitely helped. But as we transition here, I know you've been talking about Niners Lions all week, and I guess like my question about it, I'd love just your overall. Obviously, we want your overall take on it, but I think my question is like, do you think we're going to get the version of the 49ers where we've seen them just cruise through teams, like to the point where, it's going to be Sam Darnold in with 5 minutes to go because they have such a big lead that they just want to put the backups in? Are we going to get that version of the 49ers, or are we going to get the version that we saw in the divisional round, which was one that kind of played a little more tentative, I guess would be the word to describe it, not as aggressive? I mean, which version of the Niners are you expecting tomorrow?
That's the question, man. I'm inclined to believe that they're going to be the team we've seen for the majority of the season.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that means they dog walk the Lions, but I think it means that they cover the spread and they win. I think it honestly, it kind of looks a little bit like how the Lions beat the Buccaneers last weekend. And Derek and I were watching that game, and, they beat them by 8, and they controlled most of the game. But Tampa Bay still did have a late run in them, and they could have potentially made that a tight ball game. So I think it's going to be one of those where the 49ers control the tempo of this game, even though I think there's some things the Lions can do to certainly disrupt them. But I guess I just think the real 49ers are going to stand up in this game. Like I've just seen them for too many times this year offensively have every single answer to the test for an opposing defense, especially one that is so bad against the pass as Detroit. I know they got a good D-line. I know they get pressure with 4, and that's a key to stopping Brock Purdy. But I don't know. I guess if I'm just flipping a coin, one side's going to be heads, one side's going to be tails. I think last week it was tails, and I think this week it's heads.
What do you think about the quarterback matchup? Because I think that's something that is going to be huge in this game because both head coaches acknowledge that they have to stop the opposing team's running game. And Dan Campbell flat out said, we have to stop the running game. We can't have Christian McCaffrey run all over us. And obviously the Lions have a two-headed monster in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So I think both teams will have to throw the football. How confident are you after what we saw last week with Brock Purdy that he can overcome that and have one of his legacy games where he carries the Niners to the Super Bowl?
Well, first, last week was a legacy drive. I would not call it a legacy game. And I would go far as to say, speaking of AFC West throwbacks, I thought I was watching, that was a Tim Tebow game on Saturday. That was a Tim Tebow game where he stunk it up for 3 quarters, was inaccurate, was throwing it low, was throwing it high. And then somehow, some way, the door gets left open for old Timmy Teebs, and Christ shines the light down on the Levi's Stadium turf, and he just opens up the playbook somehow and starts hitting guys and threading needles. And you look up, and you're like, "Oh my God, he's clutch!" It's like, well, yeah, but he was terrible for 3 quarters.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do I think Brock Purdy's Tim Tebow? No, absolutely not. Tim Tebow is a AA baseball player. So, but I do think that Brock Purdy is the most efficient quarterback in the league in the system that he operates in. And I think one of the reasons why he wasn't very good is because they did try to throw the ball so much in that football game. Anytime Brock Purdy, if you just kind of go through his stats and his box scores, like anytime he throws the ball more than 30 times, he's generally not very good. Like Kyle Shanahan wants to be 30 runs, 30 passes, Purdy 24 for 29, 23 for 30, 260 yards, couple touchdowns, keep the ball out of harm's way, run the rock, play from ahead, let your defense eat. Like that's the game plan for the 49ers. And I think that is going to manifest itself more so on Sunday than it did last Saturday. Just because also I think the 49ers are not run dependent. Like, yeah. I think that is a little overblown about their team. It starts with the run. Shanahan wants to run the ball, and things can open off of that. But I don't think they need to win by running the football necessarily. The Lions, however, absolutely need to run the football if they're going to win this football game. Just because I think Jared Goff, and this is the difference that we're talking about the quarterbacks. The difference to me is if you think Goff is better than Purdy, that's fine. I'll hear it. If you think Purdy's better than Goff, that's the way I tend to lean. And the difference is because Purdy's mobile and Purdy can use his legs like he did on the last drive against Green Bay to escape, to get out, to extend plays, or to potentially go and get a first down when he needs to. Goff cannot do that. I also think, and maybe this is just some recency bias and there's more of a sample size for it, but I've seen Goff get rattled in games way more than I've seen Purdy, especially when pressure starts to build, not just the moment, but like literal pressure of he doesn't know when a guy's coming from the right side or the left side, and they're not able to run the ball as effectively as they'd like. So the Lions need to run the football in this game, I think, for Goff to be affected. I don't think the 49ers have to be getting 5-6 yards a pop with McCaffrey for Brock Purdy to be as good as he can be.
Yeah, I think, I'm not really even asking a question. I'm just more giving a take here.
Do it.
Just the opinion, man. But it's like, to me, or at least, look through Jared Goff and just like those little passing charts that they have over the middle of the field. He's been fantastic this year, specifically on play action. I don't remember the numbers, but against the Buccaneers, he shredded them over the middle of the field, and they do that with Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously the number 1 receiver, who's fantastic. I don't know if I see them even going over the middle of the field in this game, which has kind of been Goff's specialty. You know what I see a lot happening a lot, especially if it's close. God, I see Jameson Williams being kind of a factor in this one because he's such a deep threat, and I wouldn't be shocked if maybe the run's failing them a little bit. Maybe they just run play action and just pray when they throw deep to Jameson Williams that either he gets by, I think it would probably be Diamador Lenore on the outside or Ambry Thomas. I don't know which one, but you just pray that they commit a penalty and they manage to get deep downfield that way. Like that's kind of the only way I see the Lions winning this game. It just feels like we're going to get that first version of the Niners that we saw all season, the version that beat whatever 12 out of their or 10 out of their 12 wins, coming in more than double digits. Like that's really what I'm seeing on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, especially about Jamison Williams, who hasn't been featured a whole lot really since he got to Detroit, partially because of his own doings.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the one guy that's got take the top off speed. And you saw Jordan Love last week. I mean, everyone knows about the 50-yard penalty about on Ambry Thomas. Like, on third and long, just throw that thing up and pray for laundry, and you might have a good chance of getting one. So, I can see that. I think that he's their best deep threat for sure.
Yeah,
but I don't know if Niner fans necessarily underrate the weapons that Jared Goff has, but I think just because they're the Lions and they haven't really been in the national spotlight until recently, even when they were rolling, they didn't get as much national pub. Like, Amon-Ra St. Brown's a first-team All-Pro. Like, Sam Laporta could be George Kittle in a year.
Yeah.
Or he could be a Travis Kelce-esque tight end, probably more like TJ Hawkinson, but like of that ilk of tight ends in the very near future, if he isn't already as a Pro Bowler as a rookie season. Like, they are very, very talented at the skill positions. Josh Reynolds was, I mean, we're watching the game on Sunday and his name just kept popping up. I think I asked a Lions fan right next to us at the bar, Derek, and I was like, who the hell is that? And he's like, oh, this is Josh Reynolds. I was like, oh, yeah, of course.
No. That dude got it wrong at first. He was like, oh, it's David Montgomery. I was like,
oh, that's right. That's right.
These goddamn Lions fans don't even know the name of their own players.
He was David Montgomery. That dude looks like the complete opposite of David Montgomery. He looks like the anti-David Montgomery.
Yeah, David Montgomery. There was a lot of confusion as to who was on the field for the Lions. And I think there might be on Sunday, too. A lot of Niners fans are going to be like, who is that? Is that Gibbs? Is it Montgomery? And they also kind of rotate guys in so quickly. It's tough to tell sometimes. And I'm sure it's going to be difficult to identify as a defense. So,
or they have tackle eligibles.
Yeah, exactly. Got to make sure. That was funny, actually, when the dude checked in, reported, and everyone in the bar was like, he's eligible. He's eligible. So, no, none of that. But I still think it comes down to the Lions can run the football. And I think they can, especially outside the tackles. Yeah. I have not seen Nick Bosa get chipped to effectiveness as much as I have this season. He still is without a sack in his last 4 playoff games. And then the guy that everyone, and myself included, was really hyped about coming over at the trade deadline, Chase Young, has not really been as good as everyone thought he was going to be, or even has thought he has been. Like, Chase Young's kind of been a ghost. I mean, he's got like 2.5 sacks.
I think we also got to remember there's a reason why Washington traded him. And it's like they're not just going to trade a guy who was their second overall pick because they want to unload some cap room and all that and not want to pay him. They'd probably let him play out through his rookie contract at the very least. There's a reason why they traded him. It could have been because of the value that they got, but they also traded him because he hasn't really been the same that he was, 2020.
Yeah. He's also a freelancer. Like I will say the guy is very talented, but he does things on his own. He does his own scheme. He doesn't really go with the flow of a defense. I don't think he fits with the 49ers. That being said, though, Evan, with all that you've talked about this week, how do you think this game goes tomorrow?
I like the 49ers in this game. I think I kind of prefaced it, but I think it's one that they control. It does. I don't think they blow out Detroit, although I think that's more likely than them blowing out Green Bay. Like, I also like the 10-point spread in the Green Bay game. Was wrong about that. And I felt like I knew that very early. Like that bet was dead in the first quarter. Like that was not going anywhere. I feel like even if the Niners fall behind 3-0, 6-0, 7-0 early to Detroit, they could potentially boat race the Lions.
Yeah.
But I see this game being like 31-23. I think the 49ers cover in this football game. I think Brock Purdy is much, much more efficient passing the football. It could potentially be a 300-yard game, but I just think he gets the ball into his playmakers' hands. Brandon Ayuk, you need to get the ball. Like, he has to get the ball much more than he did against Green Bay. I mean, I don't know. I think like McCaffrey is always an option, of course, break out and go for 150 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns. But I think with how much attention is going to be on him from the Lions, like, let me put it this way: defensively, they're selling out to stop the run. If the Niners can run the football, I don't think they have a counter. Like, so I mean, you test them early, you try and run the football.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't work early on. You go to the pass. And then I also don't think if the 49ers are moving the ball through the air, I also don't think the Lions have a counter defensively. So their game is going to be in the trenches. They're going to try and stop the run and then run the football and shoot clock, kind of like how the Packers did their first 2 drives. The one area I see this could getting a little dicey for San Francisco is if the Lions get into the red zone, they score. Like they convert red zone opportunities, I think, at a top 3 clip in the NFL. The Packers do not. So those long, methodical drives will probably be 6 points more than not.
And just to transition real quick to Warriors, because you do a great job covering the Warriors at 95.7 the game.
Thanks,
what do you think of the current state of the team? Obviously, they're just getting over the passing of Dejan Milojevic, and that was a beautiful ceremony before the game on Wednesday night. They, honored him on and off the court by getting the win against the Atlanta Hawks. And then they look like their normal selves the next night, or I should say the team looked like themselves currently against the Sacramento Kings the next night. Do we give this team a pass with what's going on this season? Obviously, they're playing with heavy hearts. What do you think about the Warriors right now?
Yeah, that's $1 million question. We're all trying to figure them out right now. Look, you can't give them a pass. I mean, at the end of the day, it's professional basketball. You're being paid large sums of money to try and win games, and they're not doing it. That said, I think there's a lot of fans, at least from what I've heard the last few days, and even this morning on our Warriors show, like they're also in that same frame of mind. Like you got to get back to basketball, and this team, I think more than anything else, like doesn't have a lot of time left before the deadline to figure out which way they want to go. Do they want to tank? Because you can't really do that. You don't have your first round pick this year, or it's top 4 protected. And as much as people would like to believe you could just drop the bottom out and fall, you're not catching the bottom of the NBA. So you're not going to have your first round pick this year. That means to me, like you have to try and make something of this season, but mainly with an eye on next year. I'm not saying that they're just absolutely done this season. They might be able to make a run. The goal for this season, to me, should be to sneak in, try and be a dark horse, get some valuable playoff experience for young players. Ideally, at the deadline, move off of some contracts that could either help you now, more so help you later, and create as much financial flexibility for this offseason to slash a tax bill, to slash expectations, and then load up and try and retool for next season and make a run at it. The Warriors right now, to me, are not unsalvageable, but they're getting damn close at this point of the season because I think they have 8 games until the trade deadline. They got 2 tough games, one tonight against the Lakers, Joel Embiid on Tuesday, and then you got a 5-game road trip, which is obviously hard. The other part of this, too, is the Warriors have played more home games significantly than road, so they're going to be on the road for the rest of the season. I would say if there's one bright spot of hope for Golden State, it's the fact that they've played the toughest schedule in the NBA. So eventually that is going to soften. I know part of that is, well, you're not a very good team, so you don't have to play yourself. But I do think their schedule will soften a little bit, and then we'll see them be able to scrap some W's together. But if you can't beat teams above 500, then what are we talking about? And if you're going to continue to be in close games like they were against the Kings and not be able to win them, then what are we talking about here? So they're between a rock and a hard place. My solution at the deadline is to get off of one of your contracts that is beyond 3 years.
Right.
So by process of elimination, that's Steph Curry. I would not move off of him, obviously. Yeah. Draymond Green, I don't think you can move off of him, although he would have more value than the next guy I'm about to name, and that is Andrew Wiggins. And I think he is the guy that you got to get off of, bite the bullet, maybe even send a future first-round pick. I can't do this dance with him for the next 3 seasons of whether he's going to show up, whether he's not going to, and that is my way of it, adding by subtracting while also setting yourself up to ideally retool. So hopefully he goes, an expiring contract comes in, and then you try and make something this offseason to add to the roster.
Wiggins is that number one guy. I think everyone kind of knows that the writing's on the wall with him potentially being traded before the deadline, and especially with those reports that came out from like Shams and Anthony Slater, where they're mentioning like everyone's on the table except for Steph Curry, but then they just happen to squeeze in those little comments about how much they like Trace Jackson Davis, how much they like Brandon Pajemski, and obviously the potential of Jonathan Kuminga. Then Wiggins is the number one name mentioned. It's like when Shams is doing that, obviously he's getting some inside info that they're probably not very happy with what he's been producing this year. And I'm also like, maybe this is just me being Mr. Optimistic, but I don't necessarily see it in that there's no team that finds any value in Wiggins, because it's like, okay, you move off Wiggins, what are you going to get for him? Not a ton, not as much as you'd originally get, but like when the Warriors traded D'Angelo Russell, I remember thinking there's nobody who's going to want D'Angelo Russell. And at the same time, I don't think any Timberwolves fans were thinking, is anyone really going to want Wiggins in that contract? Like, and potentially give him an extension? I think no one's going to want that. I think there's going to be another team out there who says, you know what? He's athletic. He's still young. He's a wing player, which we can always use in the playoffs. I think there's at least a couple of teams out there who feel like they could use him and would be willing to give up. I'm not saying they're going to give up like a star player and the Warriors are just going to get infinitely better, but I think they'll give up something to where it could benefit the Warriors beyond this season. I that's just kind of where my mind's at with that.
I hope you're right. The difference between how Wiggins came in and how he will probably have to exit is D'Angelo Russell was 23 years old.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He was an all-star at age 21 for an upstart Nets team that made the playoffs.
Right.
So you had some semblance of a winning basketball player. And I also think the Timberwolves looked at D'Angelo Russell like the Warriors did, which was, well, he's expensive, but he is tradable.
Right.
I don't know if there's another team that acquires Andrew Wiggins that says we could move him for something else. Like, he's going to have to be filler or attached with something that you enjoy or like, an asset, no matter where he goes. So D'Angelo Russell, it was much more of a tradable piece for Golden State, but also for Minnesota, who they then turned into, I think, Mike Conley, who's really helped them now. So
yeah.
That's the biggest difference to me in those situations, and why I hope you're right. I hope there's someone that believes that they can salvage Wiggins. I think you're going to have to, in order to get off of him, best case scenario is you do identify another passion project, so to speak. Like Wiggins was considered by many done and considered the player that he is now as opposed to the player that he was during the 22 finals, which has kind of been proven true.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if the Warriors could go out and like a guy that I thought would honestly be perfect before they started to get rip-roaring hot was John Collins. Like, this guy has had his name in a bunch of different trade market and trade circles, and no one really knows what to make of him because he's a high pick, he's athletic, he's talented, but he's not actually that good, and he keeps being moved around, and people don't want a part of him in his contract. But now he's starting for a Utah Jazz team that might be the hottest team in the NBA. So you can't go get him, and you can't also send something with Wiggins. We were talking about this today. I do believe there's a possibility the Warriors stand pat at the deadline, not because they want to, but because there just is not a trade market for Andrew Wiggins. And I also don't think that there's a market from the standpoint of the Warriors being willing to mortgage their future. Like, they can only trade their 26 and 28 and beyond first round picks. I don't think that they're looking at 2 years and 4 years from now and saying, gosh, well, maybe we just bite the bullet on Wiggins because those first-round picks could be really valuable if this thing goes sideways. And then we're stuck without a place to replace talent when they've shown you in recent years, and especially under Mike Dunleavy, that they can use first-round picks or second-round picks to get rotation players like Pajemski or Trace Jackson Davis. So I think that Wiggins is about as low in value as they come. I think they also might be able to say, hey, well, if he doesn't have 3 years next year and he has 2 years on his contract, maybe we can move him next year. And in the meantime, he might be more valuable to us, which is still a very little value, but he might be more valuable to us than somewhere else. And we want our first round picks. They're stuck with this guy as much as I want him off the roster.
Well, Evan, you've been really generous with your time, man. But before we get out of here, you and I are long-suffering A's fans,
Oh boy.
and we just want to get your thoughts on this magnificent clip from the Vegas. Where was it? Oh, the Vegas Chamber of Commerce, where the MC is just trying to get everybody excited for the Las Vegas A's. Hit it, Steven.
Fisher, please. The Las Vegas A's. We like the sound of that, right, Vegas? Yeah? Yes? Are we alive back there, Las Vegas? How we feeling? Okay.
Oh, just a fucking joke.
Appropriate.
Yeah, it is appropriate, and I think what did Fisher say the other day? He was always a Giants fan before he bought the A's, and they were going to make renderings back in December, but they don't have them now. Your thoughts on everything right now?
Well, first of all, I don't know if that was a Chamber of Commerce or a mortuary, but to quote the great Gimli, I've heard more cheer in a graveyard.
Wow.
It's like, I'm serious, man. That was just absolute. That was
terrible.
That was downright terrible. That was awful, but it's appropriate. Like, I don't know who would want the A's at this point. And here's a little nuggy nug for the Just Your Opinion Man audience.
The opiners, we like to call them, Evan. The opiners.
The opiners. I like that. I like that a lot. Can I sign up? So do not be surprised if the A's, in between the time they leave Oakland and have a ballpark in Las Vegas, this is kind of something I've been thinking about. No one wants them, right? In any city.
Doesn't sound like it.
Don't be surprised if they just don't play baseball for like 2 or 3 years.
Huh?
Like, they just don't play. There's no team because they have no arena, venue, stadium that is willing to hold them between Oakland and Las Vegas. Just throwing that out there.
This is just an idea you have?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now what? Now how would that go about? So
how would that work?
Yeah. So there's ostracized from baseball because they have no home.
Yes. Like, no one wants to put them in front of their fans. And as Major League Baseball, you don't have to field a team. Like, you can just collect your welfare check and be on your way. You have your minor league organizations continue to play and do their seasons. But as a Major League Baseball team, you have to have a contracted place to play. The A's don't have one beyond 2024, and there's going to be a long time in which they'll be waiting for one to be built in Las Vegas. There's no rule that says they have to play baseball.
Well, what about who? So they just take them out. No replacement.
29 teams.
Damn.
I think at that point somebody would step in and say, "Okay, we'll let you play here."
Let the Oakland Bees join the Major League Baseball.
Oh, dude, me and Evan are going, man. Evan,
I'll be there opening day.
Mr. Fab, Casey Pratt. Come on, Steven.
I'll be there.
All right.
But this is part of it too. I mean, because as a professional organization, I think I'm pretty sure this is for the MLB also. I know the rule is more so for football, but like, you need a facility that can fit a certain amount of people. Like, you need a capacity. You can't just go play at, Berkeley High, or you can't just go play at Laney College. So that's part of it too, is like, there's only a certain feasible amount of places that could realistically in the area hold the A's. The Giants are not going to be able to make it work. It sounds like the place in Sacramento is going to fall through. And also, they got to have their own games as well. So I just don't think that there's a place for them right now that, number one, wants them and would want to jump through hoops in order to make that happen. So again, this is like conspiracy theory stuff.
Yeah, totally.
And I kind of presented it as, don't be surprised. I don't know anything, but this is a conspiracy theory that I have, that the A's, between when they leave Oakland and go to Las Vegas, will just poof, go into dust.
That'd be incredible if they just didn't play baseball for 2 years. Like, it's like an HBO show for, like, they took 2 years off just to make another season. It's like, oh yeah, remember the A's? Yeah, they're coming back. New season in Vegas.
Like, oh, wait a minute. That's right. They were around.
All of this has in the build-up, like leading from the deadlines that they didn't meet in Oakland, all this stuff with the Howard terminal and them wanting to turn it into like a little city when having pretty much Oakland pay for everything outside of the privately funded $1 billion stadium. But the 11 billion would be gone to Oakland to build up apartments and roads and all that sort of stuff. Like that's what they wanted them to do. And then when they get to Vegas, you take the public funding thing where they had to, snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap the little contract and keep on rewriting it. You know what I'm talking about, Derek.
Mhm.
And then
the hell's that supposed to mean?
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. I'm talking about the vasectomy that you got, and then you got it, you take it, you took that away. You don't have a vasectomy anymore. You know that thing I'm talking about, Derek?
My God, your attempts at comedy today. Good Lord.
Sorry.
Steven.
Bags of pee.
But as I'm continuing here, the Nevada teachers stuff where, Dave Cavill just got embarrassed by one of those board members.
Oh, that was great.
All of it. And then this Chamber of Commerce thing, it's just within the stadium's construction in the next few years, like something's going to go wrong. You know what I mean? Like it just feels.
You think this falls through, don't you?
Yeah, it's just too murky. I don't know what the result is. I'm not saying they're going to be back in Oakland and playing at the Coliseum again. I'm not saying that from 2025 and beyond, but
I'd be cool with it.
I mean, we all love it, but that ship has sailed, I think.
Yeah. But it's just, to me, something is going to fall through that we don't even see, that we don't understand. Like this deal, it just, all of it. Because that Chamber of Commerce meeting, that's full of a bunch of business investors from Vegas who are trying to figure out whether the A's can actually contribute to the economy. And they haven't even shown them a rendering yet.
Yeah, that's true. Look, your theory, I think, is far more realistic than mine. I've just been crawling down conspiracy wormholes lately, and so my mind's been working late at night. But yeah, like they don't want the A's. Like no one wants the A's, and I feel like that's the biggest takeaway from all of this is no one wants this team. And it's not because of the team itself or baseball. I mean, they've been really bad, but it's because of their ownership and because of the association with their brand right now. I mean, I think if they move to Las Vegas, they should be required to change franchise names. Just like clean the slate, like just get the filth and the ick and the ooze off of what has been the Oakland Athletics brand. Unfortunately, give you 4 for the he hates Derek when I rate his jokes, so that's why.
Yeah, I don't like that. Just let the jokes be jokes. I don't need to be because I get a lot of 2s, so I don't need the 2.
That's why.
That's why, because all of them suck. I know they suck. I don't need to be told they suck through a rating. Thank you very much.
Okay, hold on.
I'm gonna start doing that now.
Yes, please rate on a scale of 5.
-50.
-50 rate.
Whatever the hell that snip snap shit was.
Snip snap.
But a 2 is not as bad as
we
you
were
think,
clipped here, Steven. Jesus.
Actually, I feel like two is my favorite lane to operate in because it means that you're making a really. I'm allowed to curse, right?
Yeah. Oh, by all means, sir.
Okay, yeah, you're making a shitty, cheesy, just borderline perfunctory joke. It is not good, but you know that it's not going to land. That's kind of why you make the joke. Like, okay, this is a take I have, but the best Chinese restaurants in San Francisco, 3.5 on Yelp. 3.5. Stay away from the 5 stars. Obviously, stay away from the 1 stars. But 3 to 3.5 is your sweet spot. And maybe not just for Chinese food, but for all international, kind of foreign-speaking spots, because a lot of the American typical cuisine dining experience involves service. And that's not really a priority at a lot of these places because it's all about the food. So the food is a 5. The service is a 1. You get your 3 or 3.5. That's your sweet spot.
That's a good point.
Rating system, Steven. A 2 and a 3. You're riding there. Just like just like Will Smith in Hitch. Okay, just live in there. Live in that space. Live in that 1-2-2 step. Okay,
I'm
live
feeling
right
this.
there.
I'm feeling this. You're Alex Hitchens and I'm Albert Brenneman. We're doing this. Who's our Allegra Cole? Derek, you're Allegra Cole.
You guys are losing me on the Hitch.
What?
Dude, I told you I'm not a Hitch guy.
Not a Hitch guy.
Why?
Because I just didn't like the movie.
Oh, it's a classic.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Not my cup of tea. But I do like the idea of writing jokes. I can see that in comedy clubs now where people just like, 2s. Okay, I'll move on then.
That's a 1.
I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all.
Well, Evan, dude, you've been very kind with your time, man, and you've been awesome today. Tell people where they could catch you when you're not on 95.7 The Game.
Yeah. So West Coast Conference Sports. I appreciate that, Derek. Yeah, I do
problem.
play-by-play on ESPN Plus for St. Mary's right now in the thick of women's basketball season. Next broadcast I'll be doing is next Saturday on February 3rd. That's a 5:00 tip in Moraga, so catch me there. Just figured out my spring baseball schedule, so I'll do the rest of the home games for St. Mary's women's basketball, and then I'll be doing, at the very least, I think, 3 West Coast Conference series for Santa Clara. Going to be doing some fill-in work for USF baseball, and that'll be interspersed throughout the spring. But I generally post all the games that I do on my Twitter and Instagram, just at eGiddings10, and that's probably the best place to catch that. So thanks for plugging.
No problem at all, man. And thank you for chopping on. I know this wasn't Dan Patrick, but hopefully it was the biggest interview you've been a part of so far.
Oh, 100%. Dan Patrick, he can kick rocks, my man.
All right, Evan, man. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for letting me get these Jim Harbaugh and Chargers takes off. Not a lot of places to do that nowadays, but you guys are the men for letting me.
Anytime, man.
Anytime.
Old gang.
Anytime. You also use the word perfunctory. That's easily the biggest word that we've had said on this podcast. Perfunctory. We got to write that one down, put it in our lexicon.
Yeah, I don't know if I used it properly, but we'll find out later.
We do it all the time. We do that all the time on this podcast. We say things that we have no clue what they mean. Just sounds smart.
Yeah.
Well, as long as I can get on the opiner list, that's all that matters.
Oh, you're officially the head one. Move over, Erdies.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Later.
And now you awkwardly kick him out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That Evan, good dude.
Oh, he's awesome. What?
No, I just didn't understand your snip, snap, snip, snap.
It's from The Office.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You know, snip, snap, snip, snap. Damn it. That fell flat.
Yeah, I thought so.
Sorry.
I honestly thought you were making like a circumcision joke. I was like, what are you doing here, Steven?
No, he had a vasectomy. Then he got it switched back. Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
Gotcha.
From The Office. Evan got it.
Okay. I'm glad. I'm glad he did. I mean, I watched The Office too, but I don't remember every second of it.
If only I made a joke from Seinfeld.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. All right, let's pick these games, Steven. We pretty much covered everything we want to get to with the Lions of 49ers, but one thing I do want to ask you before we pick the game.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell, or should I call him Dan Gamble? Huh?
Ooh.
People have been saying that lately. I don't know if I like it, but I just used it. Do you think that Kyle Shanahan is more, I mean, he's very more conservative than
much
Dan
more,
Campbell.
yeah.
Do you think, though, he needs to match his aggressiveness in this game?
No, I don't. I think Shanahan needs to stay the course, man, and just let Dan Campbell, try. I mean, he's going to be. Like, there's no question that he's going to be. But being aggressive doesn't always work. Like, even beyond like just the, maybe a fake punt or going for it on fourth down, beyond that, like his defense, a lot of that success against the Buccaneers last week was how they were able to have success blitzing defensive backs, blitzing the safeties, blitzing the corners. Brian Branch, I think CJ Gardner-Johnson got in there, also had that interception in this game. Also, finally, we get the CJ Gardner-Johnson and the Deebo Samuel on the field at the same time. Really looking forward to that. I actually expect pregame fireworks at Levi's Stadium. No doubt. I don't think these two teams really like each other, to be honest. Or maybe that's just CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah.
But they had success. Like Brian Branch, I think he got through for a sack. If they're going to be aggressive there, like, is Purdy going to kind of crumble? Kind of like Baker Mayfield did on some of those blitzes and not try to make a play? Or is he going to be able to escape out of it, go on the run, redirect, and kind of do what he's done all season? But as far as like the fourth down, the fourth down in your own territory, going for the deep shot, every play, all that sort of stuff, I think Shanahan just needs to let him do that. Just let him be aggressive. Don't try to match that aggressiveness, because if you try to match that, then you fall flat yourself, because you haven't done that this year. It's not who your team is. You get away from who your team is, then that's just not going to work. Am I frozen?
No, you're good now. You're kind of glitching out there, but you're fine now.
Yeah, I could see on this thing that the Wi-Fi's unstable, is what
Oh,
I'm saying.
you're all good. You're all good. Yeah, I think that there could be an opportunity where Dan Campbell kind of coaches himself out of this game. I think he did it against the Green Bay Packers earlier this year when they were playing on Thanksgiving Day, and he had that fake punt that I thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So there could be an opportunity or a couple weeks ago, where Dan Campbell they had the terrible call go against the Dallas Cowboys, and he still went for it on the 2-point conversion, and he just got too stubborn. I think that could happen in this game, where Dan wants to match his aggressiveness, and Kyle just out schemes him, and there's an opportunity where he could look foolish. But I also think that the Lions are going to be the biggest threat to the 49ers this season as far as an NFC opponent. I do think they match them physically. I do think they match their physicality and their running game. And I do think that the quarterbacks are going to be huge in this game. I do think the Niners will slam their running game. And that's going to be on Jared Goff, who does not have a good history against the 49ers. I think he's 3-6 against them, lost 5 in a row. I think he's thrown 17 touchdowns, 7 picks, 3 of which have gone back for touchdowns. And I think the Lions are going to force Jared Goff to beat them. But the only caveat to that's not going to go in their favor is Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have got to find a way to stop that guy. And if they can't, I mean, I know that the Niners have, a plethora, big word, Stephen, of skill set guys, but so do the Lions.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta is a great tight end. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, is right now top 5, top 3 wide receivers in football. So if they do slam the run, they're going to have their work cut out for them. But I think Brock Purdy, I do think the Lions are going to sell out for the run. I think Brock Purdy needs to put his big boy pants on and overcome, or as Steve Young said, turn the page and go forward on this game. And he needs to, he's going to have to take this game over.
I know that we don't like to make comparisons to this guy, and this may sound disrespectful, but I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, like anytime I watch him, he reminds me so much of Julian Edelman, like an even better version of Julian Edelman, like a better version of that, where he's a smaller guy, smaller in stature, but really strong. I don't think Edelman gets enough credit for how good he actually was with the Patriots. If he gets a sliver of room, Goff's going to be throwing to him, and especially on these crossing routes, but he can catch anywhere. He can go deep. He can go over the middle of the field, deep over the middle of the field, intermediate passes, which is where Goff thrives, by the way. Like if the Niners aren't able to get pressure and Goff can just sit in the pocket, and let's just say they manage to open things up in the middle of the field, I actually think it's going to be a huge test for Ben Johnson, because I think he knows that Goff excels when throwing in between the numbers. So is he going to be able to take those linebackers out of the middle of the field? Because if Fred Warner's just lingering there, if he's just sitting right there, kind of almost like a QB spy, but instead just sitting in that zone, waiting for guys to cross his path, he can run straight with guys. But is he going to be able to open the middle of the field there? They do have a lot of skill position players. I could see this turning out like a lot of games this year for the Niners, which is just get up early, score right on that opening possession. Like Purdy even admitted, like that interception or that potential interception in the first drive kind of had him shook. But I think they'll be able to scheme it up to where they'll score on the opening drive, maybe get another field goal while their defense stops the Lions and what they can do in the first quarter. And then they just go from there. Like I could see that playing out like that. But on the other hand, if they don't do that, and it turns into a game like say it did against the Packers last week, I don't know if the Niners are winning that game if the Lions can do what the Packers did.
Well, with all that said, let's finally pick this damn thing. Cue the music, Steven.
Oh, damn it. Sorry.
Fine, I'll sing it myself. Boo-doo-doo-doot. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right, here we go. Lions, 49ers to go to Vegas. And by the way, I'm saying this right now, if it's Chiefs, 49ers, and I have to go to Vegas, it's going to be hell for me. But we'll talk about that another day. God damn it. All right. Lions at 49ers. Lions are obviously underdogs. Niners are 7-point favorites. The line didn't move at all with Debo being healthy, huh?
It did a little bit.
Was it smaller before?
It was 6.5 to open it up, and then it turned to 7.5.
Okay, so now it's a full 7. Okay.
And now
it's 7.5 right now?
No, it was 7.5. Then it just got to 7.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And the over-under is 52. Steven, who you got winning? What do you think? I mean, point spread, everything. Over-under, and give me a score.
Well, I actually very much agree with Evan that it could turn out like it did last week, because if we remember, the last time the 49ers played the Lions, it was very close. Very, very close to a week 1 meltdown to start 2021.
Yeah, the week 1, 2021,
Yes.
41-33.
The Niners went nuclear, I think, in the second quarter. I looked up the stats of this game, and I went back. I think they scored 24 points in the second quarter. So they had a huge, that's a lot. 24 points in a single quarter. Jesus.
Yeah, they were up 41-17, and that game ended up
Yeah.
being 41-33.
Yeah. They scored, the Lions scored 16 points, and it really came down to that final drive to where the defense got to stop. But I see that playing out again. I see the Lions covering that 7. I do. But I see the Niners ultimately winning and getting back to the Super Bowl. I think it'll be wheels up for Las Vegas after tomorrow afternoon. So give me the Niners, give me the Lions to cover, and give me the over. I do think it's going to be another high-scoring game.
What do you think the score is?
Ooh. I'm going to go, I haven't even thought of a score. I'm going to go 30-24.
All right. I am going to go kind of the same. I think that the Niners establish a lead and the Lions get a little backdoor action. It's for all the Harmony guys out there. Yeah, I think this game is...
Harmony?
Harmony's the futuristic sex robot that's sent every week to let you bang the buck. Remember Truth Machine?
Yeah, just continue with your analysis.
Harmony's a sex robot that's the same thing as Truth Machine. She comes
Awesome.
and picks the games. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's really highbrow radio we do
Oh,
on Totally
yeah.
Coast.
Yeah. Perfunctory.
Hey, Steve Kerr was a part of it one episode. I don't think he was happy about that. Anyway, Steve Young is actually a big fan of it. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Niners pull away, and then the Lions come back a little bit. But I do see Brock Purdy having a big game, and I see Jared Goff struggling here or there, but mostly having a pretty good game thanks to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I'm going to go with the Niners to win. I'm going to have the Lions cover, and I'm going to go under just slightly. By 1 point, I got the 49ers winning 28-23.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And then we got the AFC Championship game, which we have not talked about at all. Real quick, Steven, what's your biggest factor in this game?
Well, obviously it's going to come down to the quarterbacks, but I'd say let's just operate. We'll keep it going. Let's just operate under the assumption that the Niners win. All right, let's just say they're onto the big game. I think the last thing that they'll want to see before is the Ravens win this close, because if it's down to the fourth quarter like it was with the Bills and the Chiefs, a lot of things go right in the Chiefs' favor. Whether it could be the refs, maybe sometimes, giving them some favorable calls.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's Patrick Mahomes and the fact that they're able to just keep the clock moving, at least move downfield. So I think if the Ravens win a close game, I think that'd be kind of the scariest thing going into Vegas, because they can not only blow out teams, but they can win close, kind of like the Niners did against the Packers. But I think the key is straight up Lamar Jackson. That's the key in this one. If Lamar is able to do what he did last week, which was, they got to him at first, but if they were able to exploit the defense and create open space for him to move in the open field, he's just going to run all over them. And their secondary is pretty good. So I think it's just going to come down to Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, really.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think it's the quarterbacks in this matchup. I think it's more so, will the Baltimore Ravens get to Patrick Mahomes? Will they take away his, check down or his security blanket in Travis Kelce and Rasheed Rice and make him uncomfortable? And it sounds like Marlon Humphrey is going to come back in this game. Mark Andrews is going to be back for the Ravens. And Joe Thuney is out for the Chiefs, which is huge for their offensive line. And we have seen Patrick Mahomes not play well without his offensive line being there in a big game. So I think that's a big factor. And I also think, what's going to happen if the Chiefs take away lanes for Lamar Jackson to run. We saw it in the first half last week with the Houston Texans, and then Lamar Jackson figured things out. Can Lamar just be comfortable not being a mobile quarterback? He can, go side to side to throw down the field, but can he rely on his arm more than his legs if that needs to become the case in this game?
Yeah.
So I think that, it's going to be interesting. I do think that it's going to be close, but I do think that Baltimore has the more talent here. So let's pick this game, Steven. We got, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. They're equally talented teams, but
I think we can agree Baltimore has more talent. Another thing we didn't even mention, and the game can really be simplified sometimes. Will the Chiefs receivers catch the ball?
Yeah.
like they haven't a lot this season. And good Lord, man, if you go back down the list, you can probably scrape up 2 wins that the Chiefs should have had their wide receivers actually caught the ball. And they did last week against the Bills, and look what happened. So I think it could come down to that too. Do they look like the receivers that we've seen that are second to the Raiders in drops from this regular season, or are we going to get the Chiefs from that, from the divisional round where it's these guys are actually they're playing for Mahomes right now. MVS, Rashee Rice doing what he do, and Travis Kelce too. So that's another one.
Yeah, I do wonder if the Ravens secondary will be punking on the Chiefs receivers, and Kadarius Toney not going to play for. He's got a hip injury / personal reasons. That's interesting. And yeah, I mean, I think Baltimore's defense is much more intimidating than the Buffalo Bills, unfortunately. So I think, it's going to be interesting to see how the Chiefs offensively, they have not been great this whole season for the most part. They've turned it on a little bit in the playoffs, but we'll see if Baltimore's defense is that much intimidating to the Chiefs offense. So with that being said, Baltimore Ravens are favored by 4. The over-under is 44.5. Steven, who you got winning? What's the line? What's the over-under? What's the score?
I see the rate. I don't know why I say honestly. I shouldn't say honestly. Because
always be honest.
I'm always honest. But I see the Ravens just dominating. I really do. Yeah, okay. I do. And I see this being a 31-21 game. So lay the points with the Ravens. Give me the over, because that'll go over 44.5. Obviously, that would cover the 4 that they're giving the Chiefs. So I think it's going to be a blowout, honestly. 31-21.
Yeah, you think that's a blowout, though?
Yeah. Well, I mean, is 31-21 a blowout? I mean, winning by 2 scores.
Yeah, I had this very similar. I got the Ravens winning 30-20. I got Baltimore winning, obviously. I got the them laying the points. I got the over. I think it's going to be much closer than that score, I guess, indicates. Like, I think that the Ravens will establish a lead, and then the Chiefs sneakily come back, and in the end, they stop Mahomes on a 4th down, and the Ravens advance. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout per se. I just think that the Ravens will intimidate them a little bit.
Handle business.
Not something you see a lot from the Kansas City Chiefs these days. So we see a rematch of Christmas Day for the Super Bowl.
Yep.
All right, going to be interesting. Kill the music.
Thank you. All
right. Abrupt. Real quick. Luka scores 73 last night. Devin Booker scores 62. What's going on in the NBA? Jesus.
Yeah.
You said that Kevin Durant was going to go for a 70-point game. I think that's in the cards now, where he's going to try to get 75 before the season ends.
Yeah, seeing all these young bucks. But like, dude, these videos that are surfacing of defense in the NBA, it's just frustrating. Like, go back and watch some of those. The clip that's going viral right now is Luka just going up for a layup and the defense not doing anything to stop him. So, God, we do have an issue in today's NBA. There's no doubt. Makes for. I'm not gonna lie, the Warriors and Kings game, that was compelling as hell. You kind of knew that it was going to come down to the final possession because they were making shot after shot, and I'm just gonna say it too. I looked at social media, saw the outrage for Steve Kerr, and it's just another example of how we always place blame on one guy when Steph Curry literally said after the game that myself and Kerr came to the agreement that if he misses both, we're going to take the ball up court and we're not going to call a timeout. So if you're going to be critical of the head coach, I'm just saying, collaborative effort, be critical of everybody And I just hate the social media outrage when it comes to always placing blame.
That's always been Steve Kerr's MO, is to let the play go out. They rarely call timeout in those situations. They want to catch the defense off guard. That's just how they roll. And I hate the fact that we go from one game the night before, Steve Kerr having a beautiful moment and acknowledging the passing of Dejan Milojevic, and everyone saying, God, what a great leader of men he is. He's the best person to, bring a team together through a crisis like this. And then, of course, the next night they lose a game, fire him. I can't stand that sentiment. So fans need to get over this. The man's won 4 championships. They're not as good as we think they are. That's just the reality right now. They're not as good as they've been during the dynasty run, and we all need to accept that. Leave Steve alone, okay? Like I'm sick of this. It's really getting annoying.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Okay, fair enough. Any pop culture catch up, real quick?
Ooh, a little pop culture catch up. Well, I'm in the second episode of the Rugby Six Nations Netflix doc.
Oh, how's that?
It's pretty sweet. I mean, it's just these documentaries have the same formula. I don't know how much I feel. So I don't know if I feel as much enjoyment watching them with teams as opposed to individuals. Because like with teams, there's a lot that they leave out. Think like Moneyball, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like Moneyball did not describe the early 2000s A's the way that it should have. And these documentaries, I don't think paint the entire picture of what that team is going through. Like the individuals, it's easy. It's like the individual. But as far as like a team with, 9, 10, 11 guys on the field at the same time, they don't always cover that. So highly recommend it though, because it's good. And watching these rugby players, just the way they speak, they're a little more down to earth than a lot of the athletes out here because they're not making, $50 or $50 million a year contracts. So
okay,
I think it's interesting.
Have you watched the show Fargo?
First season.
Okay. I've watched every season. I think it's been 6 seasons of Fargo. So the show's been on like 10 years now, and every season's been amazing, star-studded. I just finished the latest one last night. Maybe the best one. Juno Temple from Ted Lasso is in it. She's incredible in it. John Hamm plays. He usually is like a lovable douchebag in most of the things he's in. This is where he's like a guy you just fucking hate. And he plays one of the worst villains you'll ever see in television. His performance is amazing. I highly recommend the latest season of Fargo. It is great television.
All right.
Oh, and also, have you heard about this? I saw it the other day, the trailer for Monkey Man.
I've heard about this with Dev Patel.
Yes, it looks great. It looks like a great action movie. I saw the trailer, and I got to admit, it looks awesome. I was thoroughly disappointed.
Why?
Because I thought it was going to be a gritty retelling of the Hey Arnold character, Monkey Man.
It's a shame you didn't get what you wanted.
I know, because it would have been great if Andy Dick came back. Sorry, is Andy Dick still with us?
Yeah.
Okay. It'd be great if Andy Dick came back, played Monkey Man. He was the voice of Monkey Man on Hey Arnold. I just remember
he's still with us. I just don't think that he's the most sought after comedian, actor slash actor that's needed nowadays. Because
his performance as Monkey Man was incredible, though. I just remember him like every other word was Monkey Man. Like he couldn't like stop saying that. He was like, Arnold, I thank you, Monkey. I just want to thank you again. And it was a weird.
Oh, I remember that guy. I'm looking him up now.
He didn't dress up in a monkey costume. He just literally wore regular clothes and had a cape with an M on it. He was Monkey Man.
So he's no Stoop Kid, but
he's not Stoop Kid or the Pigeon Man, but I'll always remember Monkey Man. And I think he should get his own movie.
I think the Stoop Kid should get his own movie.
Yeah, you know what?
Call it the Stoop. Start out with the origin story of how all the kids from PS 132 or whatever the school was called.
PS 119. Come on.
119. I'm sorry. And have it start the origin story where Stoop Kid's afraid to leave his stoop and then turn him into an all-time villain, kind of like the Joker.
I kind of want to see more about wasn't the bully who named like Wolfgang or something?
The bully? Which one?
They were huge. Like I want to say Harry Arnold and his friends were all in 4th grade, and then the 5th graders looked like they were like
Yeah.
ridiculous, like
Yeah.
all built and swole and everything. I think one of them was called like Wolfgang or something. I want to know that their backstory. Like, yeah, we all took steroids and got huge and just beat up on Harold and Gerald and Eugene.
I like this idea better than remakes. Instead of movie remakes, we just create like live action Nickelodeon cartoons where they're just super dark.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
You go into the underbelly of society through Hey Arnold characters.
Yeah, that's why I want the gritty Monkey Man movie.
I like it.
All right.
I'm into it.
There we go. On that note, everybody, I should say, I know I did not do the hot sauce challenge today. I am just getting over getting sick, and I don't want to ruin it. So, Tuesday, I promise you, I will do it.
I forgot.
Well, I'm a man of my word.
You could have gone without mentioning it.
No. I'm always going to own up to it, but I legitimately just got over being sick. Still kind of feeling a little bit here or there, but I think I'm good, but I don't want to ruin a good thing. So,
right.
Going to wait till Tuesday. I hope everyone understands. Don't give me that look, AJ Cruz. Don't give me that look in the chat, even though it's not possible. It's just words. All right, guys. Thanks to all the opiners. That we're calling them now?
Nah, I just made that up. We don't have to call them that.
Yeah, it's not bad. I've heard that in the chat before. It's better than God. What does Tom calls? Tom calls the chat on Tolbert and Copes the suckholds.
Oh, the suckholes.
Yeah,
that'll bring people to the chat. That'll keep them there.
They call him Captain Tom. They're all there, man.
Wow.
Yep. So thank you to the Ernies, AJ Cruz. Who was here? Who was here today? Was Otis Bird here today? Nah.
No Otis.
Let's take roll call here, or attendance or whatever.
Spadone.
Jesse was here. Yeah, Joe Spadoni popping in.
Spadoni. We need to get his Raider takes.
Oh, definitely. I'll be down for that one day. And then we had Mr. TV, Danny Golding. TV. Amazing. Steven, thanks to you as always, and thanks to Evan. That guy's a rock star. Look out for him. That guy's going places. Yeah, thankful for him to be on the pod today or on the live stream. Both. Whatever. Steven, see you Tuesday. See you guys Tuesday. Say what you always say.
It's just our perfunctory opinion, man. That's